Physical, yet at its best graceful. That's slalom canoeing. But what does this spectacular sport involve? Staged on white water, the canoeist has to negotiate a course made up from a number of gates. They must pass through each gate in order, going through green gates in a downstream direction and taking the red gates in the opposite direction. To win a competition, the course must be completed in the fastest possible time, and at all times poles should be avoided, or else a time penalty is given. And that's it. As with other Olympic sports, competition is fierce at the top, and concentration is paramount, with the paddler visualizing each run in their head, as well as practicing on the water. Each canoeist wears a spray deck, the funny garment that looks like a miniskirt. This fits tightly around the cockpit and prevents any water getting in. They also wear, for safety reasons, a buoyancy aid and a crash helmet, just in case the unthinkable happens. The paddler has a repertoire of different strokes at their disposal to effectively maneuver the canoe between the poles. To break out into an eddy to take an upstream gate, the paddler uses a sweep stroke, a wide stroke with the paddler reaching out to the front of the boat before pulling the paddle round to the back. It's this stroke that gets the canoe turning. The boat's momentum is sustained by taking a smooth line through the gate, thus saving time. The top canoeists need to keep all muscles in good shape, as well as practicing for many hours a day in the water. They spend a lot of time in the gym. Slalom canoeing can be very demanding on the body, and when paddling it's not just the arms that come into play. Top canoeists use most of their muscles in order to maximize the speed of the canoe. It's interesting to note that a paddler's speed can be increased by nearly a third when their legs are also used. By pushing forward on the footrest with the left leg when the right arm makes the stroke, and vice versa, the canoeist can take their boat to warp speed. You may have noticed Toby kneeling up in his boat, one blade short of a paddle. This isn't because he snapped it on his last run, but because he's in a different class. Toby is what is known as a C1 paddler, or Canadian canoeist. He kneels in his Canadian canoe, as opposed to the other canoeists who sit in their kayaks, and is strapped in across the thighs. As he is able to move his weight about more easily, he can get much greater turning capabilities dipping the stern. The river can create many different whitewater formations, such as eddies and stoppers. The latter should be respected, as it has been known for very experienced paddlers to get stuck in more powerful ones. A canoeist can get held in a stopper when positioned side on and, as we can see here, needs to apply great control by deft use of the paddle. On the other hand, the stopper can be a fun and challenging part of a river, and it's good experience to control a canoe in this sort of water. Here Emma demonstrates her impressive talent in controlling a low-volume kayak in a volatile, uneven stopper. Capsizing the canoe is not desirable, especially if the water's cold. But if the paddler happens to fall in, then they can roll up. This saves them having to separate from the boat and forfeit the run. Rolling the boat is a last resort, and the threat of being tipped in by the water can often be countered by subtle recovery strokes. There are many different types of roll, and the one chosen depends on the paddler's position in the river. For instance, if the canoe is at right angles to the river, it is much easier to roll up on the downstream side. Here we see our kayakers in practice, employing the same techniques a team would use when tackling the course. After a competition run, the canoeists are often physically drained, having given their all. They take a moment to reflect the last few minutes of their fantastic journey between the poles. We leave you now with one of the top paddlers in the world, Paul Ratcliffe, showing us how it should be done and making it look so easy.